Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Session 1, ITS Happenings Around the State. I want to get started with a little bit of housekeeping here. Turn on your chat for ongoing commentary throughout the presentations. If you'd like to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to submit questions, they should be answered throughout the session. Mics are muted by default, but if you would like to verbally ask a question, you raise your hand using the raise hand button or submit a Q&A request. And I'd like to introduce your moderator for this session, Andy Westbury.
Hello, everybody. Like you said, I'm Andy Westbury. I'm with Georgia Department of Transportation, District 5 Signal Manager down here in the southeast part of the state. I will be your moderator for this Session 1 bird's eye view. It's the ITS happenings across the state. So we got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about today. And but before we get started, I'll be before I introduce our first speaker, we have a word from our 2011 time capsule presented by our 2011 conference chair, Mr. Tom Sever.
There, this is Tom Sever. We're looking back at the time capsule we put in 2011 at the annual meeting. So I'm going to read a few of the comments that I made and give you kind of an update on where we are. At the time, I was the traffic signal and ITS engineer, and now I'm the deputy director for traffic engineering and operations at Gwinnett County. One of the comments I said was that the Gwinnett County ITS network would be built out if the SPLOST was renewed in 2013. The SPLOST was renewed, but we didn't have quite as much funding in that one. But it is continuing to expand as we received additional funding in 2017. And then also said this network would be an asset to the Gwinnett County citizens and public safety. We're continuing to work on that, and we have some exciting initiatives that many of you know about that will bring that to fruition. Another comment I made was that RTOP will have improved arterial operations without capacity improvements. And a lot has been done, but there certainly still is a need for additional capacity improvements. One of the other thoughts I said was we would learn how to tell our story to decision makers and others to get appropriate funding and staffing. We're still working on that. We're our engineers, and telling our story is not always our strength. I said ITS Georgia will be an even greater benefit to its members than it is in 2011, which I believe is true as we've seen our membership grow and our meetings get bigger, and I think if we'd been in person this year, we would have had a much larger meeting. And lastly, I said I would still be a part of this group, and I think as a past president, I will always care about this organization and what it does to serve its members and the community. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Now it's time for our first presenter. This is Mr. Larry Ogden from city of Valdosta. Larry has a Bachelor's of Science degree in Sociology and Anthropology with a minor in Psychology from Valdosta State University. He has worked for the city of Valdosta for 23 years, and during the past 6 years, he has been with the city's traffic manager. As a traffic manager, he oversees the daily operations of the traffic department, the traffic division consisting of signals, signs, and markings, street maintenance, and other traffic management, and their traffic management center. His duties include supervising personnel, organizing daily activities, writing work orders, and monthly reports, controlling inventory, and coordinating with the state and county governments to ensure public safety and satisfaction. Now it's to Mr. Larry. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. Like Andy said, I'm the traffic manager here for the city of Valdosta. I've been here roughly 23 years. What we're going to talk about today will be our traffic management center and things that we're doing to make it easier for the citizens and the people who come to visit the city of Valdosta. Currently, we have 128 intersections throughout the city of Valdosta. We currently have 60 cameras at those intersections. My goal is to have a camera at each intersection by the time I retire. Here in Valdosta.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick. We cannot see your screen.
Okay, I'm sorry. Give me one moment here to see what's going on. Okay, can you see me now?
Yep, we can see your video wall now.
Okay, I do apologize for that. Currently, we have 60 cameras at the intersections. We're monitoring traffic to make sure everything flows freely. We try to make it as friendly as possible for the people who live in Valdosta, visit Valdosta, and like to come here and play. We use our cameras for a variety of reasons, but the main one is to make sure traffic is flowing smoothly. If traffic is flowing smoothly here, we won't get that many complaints. The cameras that's up here now are some of the intersections where we get a lot of the complaints from. The first one at the top right is our northbound exit off of I-75. With that exit, we usually have a problem in the morning time where buses are exiting the interstate. Now, we're one of the few cities, I guess, that has a situation where we're a city municipality, but we have a county high school located within our city limits. At this intersection, when the buses exit in the morning time, it causes a backup out onto the interstate. So we're using the cameras currently to monitor that and try to make timing changes as needed so that we can alleviate that problem and reduce that hazard, that risk of vehicular accidents with the buses and the high volume traffic on the interstate. We place the cameras throughout the city of Valdosta based on, like I said earlier, complaints that we may receive. If we get a complaint about traffic not flowing or the signal not changing, we use this information. We can go back to the camera and we can look for those issues when the citizens call them in. Cameras are just one of the tools that we use here in the city. We also use, dealing with the school system, RTC, which is a system that we use to monitor and program our schools on flashers. If everything is working correctly, you should be able to see my screen with the RTC and it has the school. Hopefully everyone can see that. We work closely with the city school system and the county school system by being that the high school is located within the city limits. And with the RTC, we can program our school zone clocks for the whole year. Once we program those cameras for the whole year, it takes a big burden off of us because once they're programmed, we don't have to really worry about that system anymore. As you can see on the left-hand side, we have it set up to where we have our normal school times and we have our early release times, homecoming, and our calendar of events. We go through at the beginning of the school year and we make sure we program those. Schools usually start at 7 o'clock for our elementary schools, 7:30 for our high schools and middle schools. We have 3 different start times and 3 different end times so we can try to alleviate some of the congestion of all the traffic that's flowing out from the schools. Now, by us being a city with a lot of fans and sports being title town, we often have to change our schedule because we may have a state playoff game or something else that comes up. With RTC, we're able to go in there and make timing changes to our school zone flashers and send that information out to all of our flashers. So the RTC is good. Next, I don't know if y'all can see, I have our glance system up. Glance is a really good tool that we use. Glance enable us to actually monitor our signals because we have a TIMS unit located within all of our schools on our signals. That will give us a quick glimpse of what's going on in each one of our cabinets. And anyone in traffic know that being able to monitor what's going on inside of a cabinet is very important. You don't want to lose a very expensive cabinet over something as simple as a fan. So with the glance, it gives us a chance to look inside the cabinet and it gives us warnings. Now, currently on my screen, it's just a quick overview of one of our intersections at the intersection of Toronto and Wood Valley. It gives a quick snapshot of what's going on, the current status, the power, the device status. It gives us the AC voltage, temperature, humidity, and the monitor battery. It gives us alarms. If someone was to go out and open up one of our cabinets, it would send an alarm to our TMC center where one of our technicians can actually dispatch someone to see if there's anyone in our cabinet, if we don't have a camera there. One of the great things about the glance system is it gives us real-time monitoring of what's going on inside of the signal. For example, the screen here, we can see the current voltage and it gives us a readout over the past few days. Preemption, which is something that's coming in the future, and I'll touch on that a little bit later, that we have coming to our system. It gives us the AC voltage of what's going on inside the cabinets, which this has been really helpful because several of our intersections here in town, we have what we call ghosts. We have issues where the power would drop, the signals will go into flash. So with this system, we can actually get a readout of the voltage, and we can actually notify Georgia Power or EMC and let them know the time and the date that we had that voltage drop, so they can actually come in and look at it and try to figure out what's going on. We also get a report of the cabinet temperature, monitor the battery voltage, the humidity inside of the cabinets, and our network status. So all this information is very helpful and important to us when it comes down to trying to maintain a healthy and productive traffic flow in the city of Valdosta. Now back to our cameras. With the cameras, and if I can, I'm gonna try to show you different views of different ones. We currently have two types of cameras here in the city. We have a PTZ, which is a pan tip zoom, where we can actually zoom in on the intersection, zoom out, and tilt it to a different angle. We're actually in the process of upgrading from the PTZ cameras to full 360s. A lot of our locations here in town, we have a lot of our intersections. We have, excuse me, a lot of our intersections, we don't have good locations as far as camera placement. That would alleviate that because with 360, it will show us the whole intersection with just one camera. We also use these cameras and technology to make it very friendly for the citizens. Now, here, time is very important to everyone. So whenever someone is coming to our community, we want to make it as friendly as possible. We do not want to have citizens or people visiting our community just to sit and be at the ramps or at a signal light and just waiting and burning time. So we try to coordinate our signals here in town. We use our coordination on our main routes. We have our northbound coordinated plan and the southbound coordinated plan, so we can get the traffic to flow as smoothly as possible, quickly as possible. We can get the citizens home to their family and friends quicker as time that they save and make it a lot easier. Next, I'm gonna give a brief PowerPoint presentation that kind of let me excuse me one second, get back to the beginning here. All right, Valdosta, the city of Valdosta is one of the gateway cities coming into South Georgia. We have several colleges, South Georgia. We have Valdosta State University, Georgia Military College, and Wiregrass Technical College. Being the gateway to Georgia, we try to make it as friendly and as inviting as we can. We use our technology to promote the city of Valdosta. Here we have our TMC, where we have many monitors where we can actually view the majority of the cameras that we currently have. The Traffic Management Center is solely for managing and monitoring the traffic flow. If the technicians notice anything that's not running right, we can quickly dispatch the technician out to that area to kind of see what's going on so we can get that fixed quickly. As I said earlier, we're using technology as the Glance system, which we just recently implemented a few years ago. We use the RTC Connect, which we use to help with the school zone and traffic flow of the buses. We use our Max View, which is going to be something, a technology we've been using for several years, where we can get real-time monitoring of the intersection. So if we get a call that the signal is not operating properly, we can actually go in there and do real-time monitoring, making sure the loops are working, making sure the data is working correctly before we send a technician out to that area to investigate what's going on. The RTC is used with the buses. We also want to make sure it's safe for all the kids that's going back and forth to school. New technologies that we're trying to implement. Currently, we are in the process of working with Georgia Tech and Valdosta State University, because we have just been awarded the Georgia Smart Cities grant. With that, we're going to bring the technology of the Travel Safely app here to the city of Valdosta. With the Travel Safely app, we will be able to activate more functions in our signal cabinets and the controller, to where the traveling public and walking public will be able to use this app to know how much time they have before the light goes red or green or yellow. It will give them real-time monitoring of the signal. So we're trying to make it as safe as we can with the public who are out there traveling and walking. In conjunction with Georgia Tech and Valdosta University, we will have students coming in to work with us to start collecting data. So hopefully in the future, if the opportunity come up, we'll be able to give an update on the Travel Safely app once we have it all installed in the city and all the cabinets. Here, what we want to do, we want to make sure we enhance the city's traffic management center with the Travel Safely app. We want to make sure that we can put it in all 128 signals throughout the cities, the Travel Safely mobile app. This app is going to be connected vehicles, connected phones. So in the future, we're very excited about the Travel Safely. We want to also analyze the changes in traffic, see if this here app will make it safer for the citizens throughout the city, especially the college kids around campus. They always put their mobile devices in, so hopefully in the future we can go ahead and do a new report and give an update on how this app has helped the city as a whole. We're also trying to, with the Travel Safely, the SMART grant, we're being awarded, after being awarded the grant, we will have the transponders placed within our fire engines. We already have an ISO rating class 1, so if we can increase that time and make it even better for us response, and that will increase the response time for all our safety. So hopefully this Travel Safely app and the communications with all the signals with the preemption, we will decrease the time and decrease accidents and fatalities throughout the city of Valdosta. I know I went through it quickly. It's first time doing a actual Zoom type presentation, but once again, my name is Larry Ogden. I'm the traffic manager here for the city of Valdosta, and my contact information is on the screen. Andy.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. Just give me a second trying to get my computer to unmute. Yes, now, thank you, Larry, for that presentation. Now we're ready for Q&A. So far, Larry, it looks like you did such a good job. We don't have no questions so far. So give that a minute. I want to remind everybody to regularly visit the ITS Georgia website for the annual meeting homepage for special announcements, activities, and other conference happenings. Just go to itsga.org/2020 annual meeting homepage. So please visit that. Okay, we got a question for you there, Larry. It says, Mr. Tom wants to know, what are your operating hours of your TMC?
Anyone can set, our hours are 7 to 4, but I'm here from 8 to 5 generally. So if anyone wants to set up a time to come and visit the TMC, we're more than welcome for visitors. We actually encourage the citizens to come to the city because if we can educate the public about how traffic flow and how it works, simple things like stop bars. A lot of people do not realize the difference between a stop bar and a crosswalk. So we can educate the citizens inside the TMC center here, let them know what progression, what type of coordination plans we're running. We would do that anytime. We will have to set up meetings with anyone that's willing to come. So anytime from 7 to 4, 7 to 5, we're willing to do a presentation.
Thank you, Larry. Just let you know your mic was cutting in and out on that one.
Okay.
But any other questions? Anybody else has a question out there? Okay. Well, I think that will cover it for you, Mr. Larry.
Thank you.
I'll introduce our next presenter. Our next presenter is Mr. John Ussery. John is currently serving as the Assistant Director of Traffic for the Consolidated Government of Augusta, Richmond County. John has served in this capacity for over 4 years and handles all aspects of traffic engineering, including traffic operations, traffic signal timing and maintenance, roadway striping and signing, and street lighting. John is also part of a small team of professionals that monitors and controls traffic in and around the Augusta National Golf Club for the annual Masters Golf Tournament. John relocated to Georgia from Central Florida, where he worked for 20 years as a traffic operations engineer. He currently holds a professional engineering license in Georgia and in California, as well as numerous certificates in this field. All right, now I present Mr. John Ussery for his presentation.
John, go ahead and turn on your video and unmute yourself. It's your turn to take it away.
Okay. Can everybody see me and hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thanks, John. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Good morning. This is John Ussery. I'm standing here in our Traffic Management Center, and I'm going to do things a little bit different than some of the other presenters. I'm going to do our PowerPoint presentation and also show some of the things we do with our video wall on the screen behind me. that way, I'm not taking over the screen or anything. Did want to say a few things before we start. You can see, of course, the day that we're going to use our video wall for my presentation, one of our monitors decided to act up. So hopefully that's not too distracting, but everything's legible. I don't think it'll bother us too much. So thank you for your patience on that. And also there's a few other people in the room with me, and occasionally I'll be talking to them, and I'll be moving around a little bit as we go through this. So without further ado, let's get started. This morning, I'm going to be talking about how the city of Augusta monitors and controls traffic for the annual Masters tournament. Most of you know what that is. And it's one of the biggest events that is held here in Augusta every year. And so let's get started. So next slide, please. And I'm going to move around a little bit. I know the lighting isn't always optimal, but I'm going to try to move out of the way of the slide. So, and I'll be pointing some few things out as we go through this. The Masters tournament is hosted by the Augusta National Golf Club every year during the first full week of April. So the first Sunday to the second Sunday. The actual tournament is Monday through Sunday, but there's a drive, chip, and putt day. And then there's also a women's amateur day. So that's always when the golf tournament takes place. The tournament was first organized by Bob Jones and Cliff Roberts in 1934. The Invitational was officially named the Masters Tournament in 1939. So for the first 5 years, it went by the Augusta National Golf Club Invitational Tournament, which is kind of a mouthful. So they shortened it to the Masters Tournament in 1939. The first green jacket was awarded to tournament champion Sam Snead in 1949. Jack Nicklaus has the most Masters wins with 6. Jack Nicklaus is the oldest Masters champion at 46 in 1986. Tiger Woods is the youngest Masters champion at 21 in 1997. And the Masters tournament is the only major golf tournament to be played at the same time and the same location each year. So golf has 4 major tournaments, and the other 3, they sort of go from spot to spot, and they shift they shift locations, and the timing sometimes changes, but the Masters is the only one that goes the same place at the same time. Next slide. So for today, we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about our preparation, our pre-tournament preparation, and how we get ready for it. And that's actually where most of the work occurs for the Masters tournament, and how we prepare for the tournament. And a lot of the things that we do is pre-tournament. So that's where a lot of the work comes in. Of course, we're going to have to conduct traffic during the Masters tournament, and in our ITS system that we've installed here in Augusta is really helpful when we go through all of that process, and how we control traffic, and how we sort of monitor who's coming in and who's coming out and what times they're doing those things. So that's a big part of this. And then we have the post-tournament review, and then we have to kind of get everything back to normal. So those are the things we're going to cover today in this presentation. Next slide. Preparation for the Masters tournament begins in earnest in January. We typically have committee meetings and whatnot with Augusta National and all the various players, GDOT and Augusta National and the Sheriff's Office. We meet in February, but for us, everything starts in January. So this is almost a 3-month process for us to prepare for the tournament and get everything ready, go through the tournament, and then get everything back to normal. A meeting is held with A&GC consultants and various city departments in February. Jacobs Engineering Group provides the update for the traffic control plan yearly. And I think they're one of the sponsors of this event. I saw that. But every year they provide an update for the traffic control plan that we all use. It starts as sort of the foundation for how we control traffic for the Masters tournament. Every year, our goal is to make it a little bit better than it was last year. And so every year we talk about what happened last year and some of the changes that we could make this year, and to make it better and make it flow better, and try to get people into and out of the golf course in a more efficient manner. And lastly, the Augusta Engineering Department, Traffic Engineering, we start preparation and installation of the traffic control devices in March, and it begins in earnest after that, but we've been planning for a few months before that. So this map here shows you the main routes into and out of Augusta National. If you've ever been to Augusta, you know that Interstate 20 is this top line here, and it sort of in the north side of Augusta. And then we have a bypass loop, which is Interstate 520, or Bobby Jones, as we call it here. And you can see Augusta National is here in the middle. The yellow lines are the main routes that we use to go into and out of Augusta National. And those are the ways that we really focus on and we prepare to use when it's time for the tournament. And those are the ones we sign and direct the traveling public to. So I included this slide here to show some of the unique things we do for the tournament. And this is the inbound plan. And this is one of the slides for the inbound plan. And what is unique about this is there is so much traffic trying to come into Augusta, which is a medium-sized city, so it has medium-sized city capacity. We need to do something with all that traffic that's going to arrive in about a 2 to 3 hour window. And so what we do in the morning is, if you're heading from Atlanta towards Augusta, or you're heading eastbound, we close the Washington Road off-ramp, because Washington Road down there at the bottom of the slide is the most direct way to get to the Augusta National property. But if you're heading from Atlanta towards Augusta, we actually close that off-ramp and we do not allow you to utilize that ramp, and we make you go all the way up to Riverwatch Parkway, which is the next major street and off-ramp off Interstate 20. So it's the yellow line. And we require everybody to get off there. What that does is it allows us to better control the inflow of traffic from both directions. If you're coming from Atlanta, you get off at Riverwatch Parkway, and then there's two different options to get to the golf course. The most direct is obviously you go down a road we named Alexander Drive, and that'll take you right to Augusta National property. And when that gets full of traffic and it's not moving very efficiently, and it's you know, we have a lot of cars that are stored on the roadway, what we do is we then close Alexander Drive, and you can see the dash line over on the right. We'll send everybody downtown and we'll loop them around and have them come all the way back. And so that'll help that situation there. If you're heading to Augusta from South Carolina, the opposite direction or westbound, we do allow you to get off either at Riverwatch Parkway or Washington Road. And so we've taken each direction of traffic and sort of assigned it its own route. And it helps us control the traffic and manage the traffic. And you can see that the way that we do that sort of allows us to utilize our roadway system and store the cars as efficiently as we can. And then we'll sort of cycle through who can get to the tournament and which road is going to get the majority of the green time to get to the tournament. So we have 3 different directions that we can use, and we switch between them to make sure nobody sits in traffic without moving for too long of a time. Next slide. So I included this slide here to show all of the various directional boards and the portable cameras that we install. You can see here that all the CMS boards, all the little numbers are CMS boards, and we have them placed all throughout Augusta. And even the interstate, which is not shown on this slide, to try to help control and direct traffic as it comes to and from Augusta National. The company that provides all of this is actually stationed here with us in our traffic management center. So our traffic management center, we'll get to in a little bit, is a hub of activity for this tournament. And we have a lot of people that are in here, and a lot of people are doing various things. But the company that provides all of this is in here with us, and so we're working with him in real time. We have several pre-programmed messages in the CMS boards, and we can change them as we need to based on how the traffic is behaving and who's sort of following directions and who may not be following directions. And we're able to adjust the traffic and get it to where we need to go. I mentioned a minute ago that, if you're coming from Atlanta, we force you to get off at Riverwatch Parkway, and sometimes we send you downtown, and you can see that loop here. That's this red line that you see all the way go downtown and then come all the way back, and that allows us to keep traffic moving, even though it's a longer trip to get to Augusta National. That way you're always sort of moving. You're not just sitting in traffic for a long time without being able to go anywhere. Next slide. The reason I shows this slide here and this picture here is traffic engineering. For our months of preparation, we have a lot of signs, not just changeable message signs, but we also have a lot of static signs that we put up all over the city to help direct golf traffic. We used to put up the word masters on there, but we had an issue with that. So mostly people would try to take the signs because they had the word masters on them. And so now what we do is we have golf traffic signs all throughout the area, and every major route into Augusta National has its own specific directions. So you have the static signs and you have the CMS boards, and between those two, we're able to direct traffic where they need to go. Another thing we use is social media. We'll have a connection with Twitter and all of that, and we send out alerts, and the radio stations and the TV stations pick up on those, and we are able to also sort of help traffic along the major routes into and out of the golf course. This is just a picture of some of our crews working hard installing the various devices that we put up. We put them all over the place. We have them all the way into downtown Augusta, obviously near the interstates and all the main routes into and out of Augusta National. So how does ITS play into this? How do we use all this technology and this video wall? How do we do all that and utilize that to help control traffic for the masters? Well, our traffic management center, which I'm standing in, is essential for managing the large volume of traffic that comes into Augusta each spring. Through this TMC, we can monitor over 40 PTZ cameras along the routes leading to and from Augusta National. So we have every major route that we were showing in the earlier slides. We have pan-tilt zoom cameras that are all along those routes, and they are easy for us to view, and we use them to manage the queues and the traffic and the flow. And we have very good coverage. There's very little that we can't see. So any major route or any way you can get into Augusta National, we can see you as you travel along those routes and adjust what we're doing accordingly. Each traffic signal along these routes, about 30 of them, can be monitored individually and timed. For each can be adjusted in real time, and we'll show you that in just a little bit. Notifications are pushed to the media outlets and social media as traffic sort of progresses throughout the day. Typically our morning starts pretty early, and most people are into the parking lot or wherever they're going to park for the golf tournament by mid-morning, and then we have a little bit of time in the middle of the day to kind of reset everything, and then in the evening we do it all again. So this is a picture of the room I'm standing in, and you can see the workstations that we have. You can see the video wall. And in just a second, we're going to bring up our master's preset so you can see how we utilize the video walls and all the various cameras to control the traffic that comes into and out of this area. This is a view looking back at the other side of our traffic management center. It looks a little different now. We've got a few new things in here, but this gives you an idea of we have several workstations that we use. We've brought in some additional TVs that we put on the sides, and we utilize those for signal timing. We have those on either side. So it's a big operation, and it's a lot of technology that we connect all together to make this work. And last thing I wanted to show with this particular slide is you can see the news reporter here. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of stuff happening in here. We have our traffic signal technicians. We have the state is in here. We have reporters that come in and do live reporting, and they interview us and all that stuff. And then we also have Augusta National representatives in here. We usually have a sheriff's department representative in here, and we have the gentleman who owns the company that controls the CMS boards and the portable cameras is also in here. So there's a lot of us in here working together to coordinate the effort to get everybody into the golf tournament as efficiently as possible. So now we're going to take down the slideshow, and we're going to bring up one of our master's presets. And so we'll give it just a second here for all the cameras to pop in. So this is a preset that we use for traffic that's coming into the Masters tournament. And you can see that a lot of the names should look familiar that I mentioned earlier. There's Washington Road and Alexander Road and Riverwatch, and through this whole thing, we can monitor all the major routes into and out of Augusta National. So with having so many people in our traffic management center during this process, we each sort of take a few screens and a few cameras, and we monitor those, and then we communicate along with one another. What's going on, where does traffic seem to be stalling, which seems to be underutilized, how can we move that more efficiently. One thing I wanted to highlight in this particular wall is these red ones here right in the middle. This is actually one camera that has 4 different lenses in it, so we can look at all 4 directions at one time without having to move or pan the camera back and forth. Last year was our first year that we used this traffic center to do master's traffic, 2019. And one thing we found is, especially at this intersection here, there's 2 or 3 different directions we need to see simultaneously, and we were constantly sort of taking our camera and shifting it from one direction to another, and zooming in and zooming out, and turning it. And we figured there's got to be a better way to do this, and then we found this camera. So now we can just monitor this one intersection and all of the different vehicles that are coming into and out of this intersection without having to turn the camera. We have another one at the top that was the same situation. Just down the road from this camera here, up at the top, the red box that says Kroger, there's a major intersection that we monitor that is on Washington Road, and there's a Kroger on one side and a Publix on the other side, grocery stores, and there's an access to Augusta National parking around the back of Publix. And so that was another area where we were constantly trying to look at cars coming in, cars turning, cars coming out. And so that's another one. So we installed 2 of these cameras here. We haven't been able to test them. Obviously this year there was some issues with Corona. And so they postponed the tournament till November, which is in about a month or so. And even then they're not going to have patrons. So we're hoping next year to really see how this works for us, and we think it's really going to help. You can see the other one I want to point out over here is Mid-Alexander. And so when Atlanta traffic gets off the freeway, they get off at Riverwatch Parkway, and then they turn up Alexander Drive. And before, we only had a camera at the bottom and at the top where there's 2 signals. Now we have a camera in the middle. And so we can see how far the queue progresses back. And then when it reaches a certain point, we have a sheriff's officer down at the bottom. He'll close the road, and then we'll detour everybody downtown. Next, we're going to bring up a outbound plan. So this is in the afternoon after everybody's, enjoyed the day in the tournament. We have to get them out of the parking lot and back to their hotel or their restaurant or whatever it is they want to do. So you can see this one's slightly different because our outbound plan has an outbound route that is a little different than what we normally do for the inbound. So you can see there's several more cameras that show downtown. There's some that show Walton Way and Highland. And so there's some other areas that we have to monitor that are different for the outbound plan than the inbound plan, but it's the same idea. We monitor the traffic, and when everybody wants to leave Augusta National, we'll typically close shortly after the final pairing of golfers finishes their round, and they'll stay open for a little while people buy their merchandise and whatnot, and then it's time for them all to go. And so we have a large group of people all on basically 2 streets, and we need to get them out and back to their hotel or back to where they want to eat or whatever event they're going to go to after the tournament is over for that day. So this really assists us with that. And how we do a lot of that is we have adaptive systems on most of our traffic signals around Augusta National. Most of the roads that lead to and from it have an adaptive traffic system on it. And we are able to get in and sort of force different phases on and off and control how traffic flows. We also close down a lot of our left turns at that time. So it's sort of a running joke here in Augusta that you can't turn left during Masters Week, and it's mostly true. What we do is we do that because left turns take a lot of time to execute, and so we need to make sure that the traffic can get out as quickly as possible because everything sort of dumps into one one road, and then once it gets there, it disperses among the city. So this is what we do. Go ahead and switch it to next one. And so what I'm going to show you here, this is our in-sync system, and this is our adaptive system that we use. And we're going to bring that up here in just a second. And so you can see here over on this side, you can see the fixed cameras that we use to detect the vehicles. And you can see vehicles entering the detection zones. You can see what's red and what's green, how long it's been green, when it's going to, when it last changed, all that information that you would need to know if you were monitoring this. The other thing we wanted to control is we have manual controls to this system. This is how we force certain phases on and off. And this is how we'll have 2 or 3 technicians in this room, and they'll each take a group of signals that are in sequence, and one technician will turn the lights green or sort of force one of the phases green, and then in sequence, the other 2 technicians will take their groups of signals and they will do the same thing. And we're able to move out a lot of traffic in a very short amount of time using this situation. The adaptive signals work pretty good, except for when everything comes to a standstill. So if traffic is severely impacted, the level of service drops way down. The software doesn't quite know how to handle it, so it still needs a human touch, so to speak. And that's how we best control the traffic that is exiting the golf course, as we can sort of override it wanting to go through all 6 or 8 of its phases. And we force certain phases on and off for long periods of time to get a large group of that traffic flowing and sort of outbound away from the golf course. So we're going to go back to our slideshow here real quick. So just as a final note, about 2 months after the tournament is over, we all meet together to see what worked, what didn't work, where there were problem areas, what areas could we use to improve upon. And that sort of gives us a head start in the next year, and we can think about how we could improve certain situations. Every year, we try to improve the traffic. We try to reduce the travel time. We try to make it less obstructive for you to get from wherever it is you're staying into the parking, so you can go to the tournament and enjoy yourself. And that's always our goal, is to speed that process up. We've done that over the last few years, and we'll continue to do that as we move along. And then, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, it takes us a while to get everything back. We put up a lot of signs. We repaid a few intersections. So from a traffic engineering point of view, we have to put everything back. So it takes a week or 2 for us to get all that stuff taken down. There's a lot of residential neighborhoods around Augusta National where people will park if we don't put up signs. So we put up a lot of no parking signs, and in addition to the directional signs that you saw earlier. So that's something I got to put it all back to normal, and then we wait 8 months or so, and then do it all again. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, John. As right now, you don't have any questions, but I have a question for you. What's the how many people do you estimate that shows up for the Masters every year?
Augusta National is pretty conservative with the information that they share with us. And so they don't give us the number of tickets sold or anything like that. But what we estimate is that the normal daily volume on Riverwatch and Alexander and Washington roads that all lead to the golf course, it probably doubles. So on a normal day, Washington Road would have 40 to 45,000 cars. So we're thinking we serve, just on that one road alone, maybe 75 or 80,000 vehicles. And the same with Riverwatch, and the same with Alexander, we know, just as a huge number of vehicles compared to what it would normally be on an average day. So we estimate about twice as many cars are coming in that you would see on a typical rush hour. And that it seems to work pretty good.
Okay. It's a lot of people. All right.
Yeah.
Well, still, nobody else has any questions for you.
Hello, I'm Mike Holt. I'm a principal in our transportation practice. I'm also a proud member and past president of ITS Georgia. At Stantec, we design and deploy ITS solutions and support infrastructure to make transportation networks smarter and to improve the safety, security, and efficiency of our roadways. Visit the Ideas Hub on stantec.com to explore the latest trends and innovations to relieve traffic congestion and improve mobility. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, John. Are you still online? But somebody have a question for you. Okay. I guess John's not online anymore, so we'll try to see if he can get that answer to your question about shuttle services later on in the presentation. Our next presenters is a tag team from David Miranda and Chris Swenson. David Miranda is a ITS supervisor for the Georgia Department of Transportation with 3.5 years experience working within the ITS field of transportation engineering. David has a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Georgia Institute of Technology. He helps manage the ITS comprehensive maintenance contract, standalone ITS projects, fiber asset management systems, and GDOT ramp metering program. David has worked extensively with the ramp meters and oversees the timing, maintenance, and associated special projects. David also enjoys playing soccer and biking in his free time. His partner that's going to be on this presentation, Mr. Chris Swenson. Mr. Chris is a principal with the WSP U.S. Advisory Services. He has over 35 years of transportation and planning and engineering and financial experience with over 20 years experience in active traffic demand management. He has a master's in civil engineering from Georgia Institute of Technology, along with a bachelor's with civil engineering from Georgia Institute of Technology. Chris was the project manager for the first variable pricing program implemented in Florida and the third in the United States, and has performed similar services in other states since. Currently, Chris is leading coordinated adaptive ramp metering studies in Georgia and in North Carolina, and is also helping support a pilot deployment of CARM system in Colorado. Nationally, he has authored multiple papers on road pricing and managed lanes and has presented at numerous conferences, including annual meetings of the Transportation Research Board, Institute of Transportation Engineers, and ITS World Congress, along with Intelligent Transportation Society of America. All right, now I present Mr. Dave Miranda for him to start out their presentation. Go ahead, David.
All right, can you see my screen? All right.
We got it, David.
That's good. All right. My name is David Miranda, and I will be presenting here on coordinated adaptive ramp metering with Chris Swenson. I'd like to hand it off to Chris here to begin to tell you guys what CARM is.
Righty. After 35 years, your introductory bio gets a bit long, but I think I'm going to try and cut that back for next time, so you won't have to listen to quite so much. Next slide, please, David. All righty, CARM, Coordinated Adaptive Ramp Metering. It's the term we're using in Georgia and North Carolina. I've got to harken back, however, and give credit to its roots, which is managed motorways that was pioneered in Australia. We'll be talking a little bit more about that in just a moment, but it is an advanced method that integrates ramp meters together as a system. And that's the big difference between it and what's out there now in Georgia, where you have the meters responding to local conditions. But in this case, basically the entire system is tied together so that when you get an issue at one part of the system, the entire system can adapt and help out that particular system, whether it be too long a queue on the ramp or a potential flow breakdown starting to occur. The entire system can respond, not just the individual meters. Next slide, please. And the purpose is to control freeway access to prevent flow breakdown, and flow breakdown is the big problem. Now, what the public sees is that it's congestion and it takes longer to get from A to B. But as transportation professionals, we recognize that once those severely congested conditions begin to occur, we actually lose throughput at the very time we need it most. There are a lot of common strategies. Vehicle occupancy, we have HOV lanes here in Atlanta, as most people know. Tolling can do it, and that's what is used on the express lanes in the Atlanta area. Ramp metering is already being used. Coordinated adaptive ramp metering, which is what we'll be talking about today. And here's the one that would frankly work the best, but I don't expect to see anytime soon, is a combination of tolling and ramp metering, where tolling can control the overall demand and ramp metering fine tunes it as it gets onto the freeway. It's not tested in Atlanta, but we do believe it's got a lot of potential to really help the traffic problems in Atlanta and other places in Georgia and in the Southeast. Next slide, please. I know everybody that's on this webinar right now is familiar with this, and so I apologize in advance, but I do want to call out two of the graphics here. One in the upper right is a speed flow diagram. We've known about that since the 1930s, and probably everybody on this call had it back in college. And the other one is on the bottom left, which is the flow density diagram. And you can see that on each of those diagrams, there's a theoretical sweet spot where we get the most flow through the system. Next slide, please. And we found that it's not just theory. This is a scatter plot, and it's only a scatter plot. No, we didn't try and make it look like the classic backbending curve. It just came out this way. And this is in 2016. It's obviously way pre-COVID. It's on I-75 South at 10th Street. One of the reasons that we like to actually look at measured maximum flow rate versus the theoretical flow rate is there's just too much that can be impacting the flow rate. And for those of y'all who are really familiar with it, you know that there's a lot of weaving going on at this particular section as every 75 and 85 come together. But we also know that it's capable of carrying a good bit of traffic. Now, when we convert this to vehicles per lane per hour, the maximum is about 16 to 1800 vehicles per lane per hour before flow starts to break down. Next slide, please. And we're just circling the flow breakdown in the bottom actually bottom left, and you see flow drops dramatically as speed drops. They're definitely connected, but it's density, traffic density, and the number of vehicles per mile that's really causing this problem. Next slide, please. And this is just the same thing, but shown in a different way. And you can see from 5 o'clock and a little bit after, we get the maximum density per mile with a little over 50 vehicles per mile. But it's the time when we get the lowest throughput of the entire day, except for the very early morning and late evening hours. So we're definitely seeing some major flow breakdown just because of congestion. Next slide, please. What we're trying to do is to operate as close to the maximum as possible. And that's shown with the red box there. And what it depends on is how good the algorithm is, but even more importantly, how good is the detection on the roadway. If we've got a plus or minus 10% issue with our detection, we're going to have to back down to the left on that box to be able to make sure we don't drop into a congested flow situation. If we've got highly accurate detection, we can start moving to the right and really maximize what we can get through without having to worry that we're going to have to eventually deal with a flow breakdown if we're not careful. Next slide, please. Now, I want to really emphasize here that CARM is focused on maintaining stable flow and maximizing vehicle throughput. And that's not just holding people back on the ramp. It is, when the opportunity presents itself, moving people as rapidly as possible off the ramp and onto the freeway. You can see the dark blue line, that's in this image, that's the optimal, excuse me, that's the median, or that's the average. I'll just say average. I won't get too fancy here. That's the average traffic flow for the hour. And nothing surprising here, morning peak, afternoon peak. This was taken in Colorado when we were doing some checking on a very accurate device called a turtle. And you can see that over a very short period of time, the flow varies from an hourly equivalent of 1,300 vehicles per lane per hour to an hourly equivalent of 2,200, over 2,200 vehicles per lane per hour. Now, if we were to shove traffic onto the freeway at the time we're seeing these peak flows, we're going to get a problem and we're going to have a breakdown. But during those times when we have very low flow, well, very low flow for a peak hour, we want to move traffic on there as quickly as we possibly can to take advantage of those lulls, brief as they may be, on traffic conditions. This requires, like I said, the extremely accurate detection so that we can go ahead and determine that these do in fact exist with confidence. And it also requires that we have a mechanism in place that allows us to move vehicles on quickly. And that's why you'll see when we're detailing how we would go about this, you're seeing not only 2-lane ramps, you're seeing 3-lane ramps. And in Colorado, where we're about to go ahead and deploy a pilot, we actually have a 4-lane ramp. And that's not uncommon in Australia, where again, this has its routes. Next slide, please. All this is, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, is you can see we've got a flow occupancy curve, and unmanaged is to the left. The bottom one actually shows a managed facilities, and you can see all the flows stay on the positive, no breakdown side of the curve, with one exception that snuck out there. Next slide, please. This is what I call my 2 kangaroos and a wombat slide. It's looking at Australian managed motorways and how they've actually performed. Now, I call it two kangaroos and a wombat because when I first heard that this was done in Melbourne, Australia, I wasn't thinking that it would have a tremendous amount of knowledge here for the US. It just wasn't going to tell us anything because I thought Melbourne was a relatively small city. Well, it turns out that Melbourne, the latest population estimate is just under 5 million. So not quite the size of Atlanta, but by any reasonable definition, it is a major metropolitan area. You can see two heat maps near the bottom. On the left, we have pre-managed motorways. Again, that's their CARM system. And you can see there is a lot of red showing up there indicating bottlenecks. They go ahead and get it implemented, they get it running right, and you can see that it really settled it down. Very little congestion still occurring. So it works, folks, and it should work here in Atlanta. Next slide, and David, I think it goes to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. And just to go and continue on what Chris was talking about with with Australia, we're going to shift gears over here to Atlanta's challenges. So first and foremost, the existing roadway structure within Atlanta is old and was never designed to handle or accommodate current traffic volumes. This differs from Australia in the fact that they were able to build their roads in a certain way to at least accommodate managed motorways. We don't have that capability here, so we're gonna have to make do with what we have. Another thing is technology and software improvement will need to be made for this to be feasible. As Chris stated with the detection, that's gonna have to be brought up as well as getting a software and algorithm associated. There's also skepticism to the idea of managed motorways being feasible, and then coordination between offices and agencies will have to be vital for this to be a success. Implementation costs for CARM are also expected to be significant, and a pilot will be needed to prove the concept will work on a large scale before we can get massive buy-in. So this brings me to the big picture. So CARM is integrated data collection sensors and advanced system management tools. They monitor and control this real-time traffic conditions. CARM requires a highly specialized software that can manage the system in real time and integrate data and information expediently. Georgia's not here yet, but we do feel that we are very close to this. It also synchronizes the flow of vehicles entering a freeway to those already on the freeway, and real-time demand management maximizes overall efficiency here. So let me talk about a few of the pros of CARM here. It enhances active management tools and dynamic demand management tools of managed lanes. And will be a key element in a comprehensive package of strategies to fully manage freeway mobility, as Chris mentioned earlier in one of those slides. To continue on with pros, they manage all lanes on the facility for proper operation. Currently, we don't have that capability. Ramp meters can also be implemented to bypass lanes for HOV or transit. As you can see in this picture to my lower right, that is in California. It's not currently implemented in Georgia. They use the same in-lane signals drivers are already accustomed to and will protect future investments from congestion impacts. So let me touch real quickly on a few of the negatives of CARM at the moment. It's counterintuitive, may be difficult for the public to understand. Outreach will be vital for this to be overcome. Requires dense and highly accurate traffic detection and additional software. Will likely require development of additional ramp storage. Both of these are in the works and they should be arriving very soon. Freeway to freeway interchange metering will be needed for best results. This has been looked at in the past and is currently not a direction the department is going in currently. It's not to say it won't happen in the future, but it's not on the roadmap currently. CARM efforts in Atlanta, 2016, first managed motorways corridor feasibility study was started. 2017, that led to a benefit cost study and feasibility analysis. Those were completed and led to the next managed motorways task order in 2018. This was further efforts to test feasibility and future requirements needed for a functioning ramp metering system specifically, and also was the creation of adaptive ramp metering guidelines that the department can use. CD collector distributor ramp meter design study has just gotten started, and this is currently what's happening right now. Just kicked off this month and will be expected to go for the next year. Future, we are currently putting all our efforts towards getting a full-blown CARM corridor pilot in the near future, of which where it's going to be, we do not currently have that identified. So some summary of the past efforts here. First task order was 22. This was the initial CARM exploration undertaken by GDOT with the concept of operations, preliminary review, corridor identification for the pilot, and benefit cost analysis of that said corridor. We identified that to be US 78, but we also found that it was not cost efficient to use this corridor, as congestion was not enough to justify the cost to implement CARM in this corridor specifically. So we moved on with more efforts. Task order 30, specifically, this was a small effort to test the Turtle device, the infrared traffic logger, to an automatic traffic recorder, which is a count station. We tested this on I-475 against an IVID as well. Turtle and the count station very close, about 0.2% accuracy to each other, and the Turtle outperformed the IVID. The drawbacks of this were that the Turtle was found to be non-cost efficient and also needed specific roadway geometry. Another thing we were not able to test on 475 due to traffic conditions there was congested conditions, because 475 just doesn't get as much traffic as Atlanta actually sees. And we used Turtle specifically because of the extensive use of it on the M1 corridor in Australia. So we figured, you know, if it worked for them, it might work for us. So task order 31, this was the most recent one that was completed. Explored aspects of managed motorways such as CARM detection requirements, tuning and maintenance, queue management, and operational policies. Algorithms were explored such as fuzzy logic, Alinea, Karma, and stratified zone metering. No best option was identified, but the algorithm determination has flexibility is what was determined. Any of them could potentially work, but we have not identified one that is best fit. Detection also needs to be improved for an effective CARM system, as Chris mentioned earlier. And queue management and policy decisions are big hurdles to overcome soon, but we are not there just yet. ATMS integration, detection, network accuracy, and maintenance are more factors to consider. And with the new ATMS coming out soon for GDOT from CAPSH, we are looking forward to the possibilities with that. Findings from past efforts. So CARM likely is likely to bring about significant benefits in Georgia. The benefit cost ratio is likely to be good. Upgrade detection is required, software is required, and ramp storage is required, all three of which are being addressed now. And then driver exposure to current ramp meters is a positive. And we, as you can see right here in this lower right corner, this is a speed versus time diagram for I-20 westbound before and after the ramp meters were put in. The red line signifies before and the blue line signifies after. As you can see, the blue, the ramp meters did help flatten the curves quite a bit, where the speed broke down. We are hoping with ramp metering that it can also, improve the condition almost to a flat state. But the motorists within Georgia do see that the ramp meters are helping out in traffic and are warming up to them. So this leads me to our current efforts. CD collector ramp metering design guidelines have kicked off, as I mentioned earlier, and they're exploring the ramp metering on CD collectors and constructing guidance on its future implementation. As you can see below here in the lower right, these are some of the VISM models that we are currently going to get out of this task order, just to see how this is happening. The collectors and distributors are important because in order for a managed motorway system to work specifically, we're going to need to have everything metered. All entrances onto the main line have to be closed off, and there can't be a spot where people can sneak in there without, ways being constricted to a degree. Signal coordination is also happening within RTOP concurrently. That is not currently happening with ITS involvement, but any coordination happening between signals and ramp meters is a good thing, and hopefully that will make things easier for us in the future with managed motorways. So to continue on with current efforts, Max Time, Max Ramp 2.0 will be our current efforts to streamline ramp meters in Atlanta. And then upgrades and updates to that software will continue to support ramp meters where applicable and should make managed motorways and algorithm support a lot simpler. Ramp meter metrics build out is also underway to assist with maintenance issues and data visualization of ramp meter efficiency. This is important because we need to make sure that our ramp meters are working, and we need a good data-driven solution to make sure that we are actually getting results. And the metrics will help in doing that and proving the case. So for future expansion, GDOS, like I said, is working towards a full-blown CARM pilot corridor. Past efforts and current efforts have been working towards collecting the guidance and building the infrastructure necessary to implement in a meaningful way. And another thing we've been doing is coordinating with DOTs around the country to share ideas and collaborate on best practices for CARM. There are places that have implemented CARM pilot corridors, notably Washington and also Colorado. And we look forward to finding out what pitfalls they encountered and also what worked for them. So we can implement that and have the best strategy going forward for Georgia. Now at this time, I'd like to open up the floor for questions.
Thank you, David. We'll give them a minute or two to see if anybody has any questions. Oh, we got a question there, David. Got a question. Okay. Is CARM system independent and can it work with Kaposh software, and what quarters are being considered for testing? Hopefully I pronounced that right.
David, you want to take that or you want me to take a shot at it?
You want to take a shot at that one, Chris?
Sure. The CARM system can be independent. However, it has to be able to feed back into the overall traffic management center. So we believe it will be complementary with the CAP software. In terms of corridors to be pilot corridors, that we really haven't progressed to at this point in time. Our initial look, as David said, was on US 78 Stone Mountain Freeway, but there's just not enough congestion there to really do a good pilot. So we're still thinking about that. There have been suggestions made from some of the worst corridors in the Atlanta area to some not so bad corridors, possibly even outside of the Atlanta area in areas with new ramp metering.
Okay, we got a couple more questions. What kind of performance metrics did you build for the ramp meters?
Matt, that's a great question. David, you want to take it?
Yeah, so for performance metrics right now, it's still in, I want to say, alpha stage, but we are currently working towards building some meaningful metrics. Notably, what we're pursuing right now is definitely real-time queue storage as one of the metrics, as well as number of flushes currently at ramps. We're still trying to get some good visualization for a number of times the ramp turns on, just speed, occupancy, volume visualizations as well, things of that nature at the moment. There are, like I said, some things we're working towards, like the real-time queue storage, but they're still in the works.
David, I'm going to skip Jose's question here in a second. Matt had a two-part question. He also wants to know what other DOTs use ATSPMs.
What other DOTs use them?
Yes, sir. ATSPMs.
Okay. ATSPM, I want to say that was from want to say Arizona has Minnesota, Washington. There's a number of them that do use the ATSPM. Notably, the ones that are probably more advanced than we are as far as the ramp metering goes, which all of those that I've listed above have pretty much gone CARM or soft CARM at this point.
Yeah, and California would be in there
So the
also. They're using a version of
Yeah.
Swarm.
Okay, one more question so far. Actually, we got some more. Jose wants to know, it was mentioned that highly accurate detection is needed. What is the anticipated investment in dollar amounts and what detection systems are you looking to use?
David, you want me to take that one?
You can take that one, Chris.
Okay, it's going to depend on the amount of detection that's necessary, and that's going to depend on specifically what corridor we have. I can tell you that we need some type of detection. About every third of a mile is the standard that is used, and in the immediate vicinity of the interchange, we need multiple, probably 5 or 6 detectors at each interchange, plus some relatively simple detectors on the ramps themselves to be able to measure what's going on there. We know that turtles will provide the data that at the accuracy we're looking at. We're concerned, though, that turtles may not be able to be deployed on the size freeways that we have here in Atlanta. So we are looking to see if other mechanisms and other vendors can give us the accuracy that we need, which is about plus or minus 2% in terms of the volume and in terms of the speed, down to about 20 miles an hour. So it's pretty tough. Definitely would welcome inquiries from anybody that would like to discuss this further. Andy, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Dang got a mute button. Matt slapped me in the back of the head and said I didn't answer that question, that 2-part question correctly. He's actually wanting to know what metrics are being used by other state DOTs.
The metrics that I know of basically all have to do with travel times and to some extent with heat maps, but I'm not fully familiar with what is being done in California and Washington. In our current GDOT work, we do have the guy that rolled out Washington State's system, but what we're going to be looking at definitely is going to have to do with travel time, and that needs to take into account time waiting on the ramps, as well as throughput. And throughput, quite frankly, is going to be the big one. Travel time is nice. It's good to be able to get home faster, but the big benefit to this is maintaining that throughput. And Matt, I'd love to work with you on the rest of those metrics. I know David would too.
Okay, David, Chris, there's several more questions. I'm hoping that y'all can probably answer those by typing them in because we're getting behind on time. Okay. We're dragging over.
Okay.
So please look at the Q&A box and try to answer those questions by typing them in as the conference goes on. We are now need to go to our platinum sponsor. We got a word now for our platinum sponsor, KCI. So take it away, Ken.
At KCI, we are focused on technology and delivering innovative ITS solutions. Our team designs, installs, integrates, inspects, maintains, and manages the infrastructure and systems critical to sustaining our communication and transportation networks. We have planned and installed more than 18,000 miles of fiber optic cable and 4,000 small cell sites. As leaders in wireless and 5G, we are proud to create a more interconnected, livable world. Whatever your ITS or communication needs, we are driven to rise to the challenge.
All right, KCI, thank you for that little short video. Our next presenter is Mr. Tom Sever. Mr. Tom is a Deputy Director with Gwinnett County Department of Transportation. Tom graduated from Georgia Tech with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering in 1993. After working in the private sector, he joined Gwinnett County in 2000, becoming the traffic signal and ITS section manager in 2007, and was promoted to Deputy Director in late 2017. Tom oversees both the Traffic Engineering Division and the Traffic Operations and Road Maintenance Division. Together, these divisions are responsible for the maintenance and operation of over 730 traffic signals. The county's ATMS ITS network, over 2,650 miles of roads, along with the associated right-of-ways, traffic signs, and sidewalks. Tom is a registered professional engineer in the state of Georgia, a member of the Georgia Section ITE, and the past president of ITS Georgia. Tom and his wife, Reverend Stacy Sever, are both proud parents of two teenage boys, Austin and Wesley. Now, Mr. Tom, it is your show.
Thank you, Andy. Good morning, everyone. I will bring up my presentation real quick and talk about connected vehicles in Gwinnett County. If I can get it started, there we go. All right. Okay. Again, Tom Sever with Gwinnett County. We've done a number of different connected vehicle initiatives over the past couple of years. Some of y'all are familiar with a lot of these, so I'll talk in a little bit more detail. Oops. And I did not start from the beginning. My apologies. There we go. All right, real quickly, I'll remind everybody about the infrastructure that we maintain here in the county. Talk about our connected vehicle master plan, and that we were also fortunate to have a Georgia Smart grant to do. Talk about the Georgia Tech research that we did as part of that effort, as well as how we've continued it since. And then I'll wrap up with some of the deployment projects we've started. Actually, we're now at 740 traffic signals we maintain in Gwinnett County. We maintain every signal in the county, regardless of city limits or state routes. So that's why our number is so large. We have communications to about 75% of those traffic signals, mostly through the 230 miles of fiber optic cable you see in green on the map. But we do have several that are using cellular communications. We monitor traffic with all our 260 cameras. We have over 220 flashing beacon locations. Most of those are school zone beacons. And we use a software similar to what Larry was talking about in Valdosta. And we continue to expand this system. You can see a few orange lines that represent things that are under construction, but also a number of purple lines, which are projects wrapping up construction, or I'm sorry, design. And we plan to let to construction in the next few months. So I'll talk about our master plan real quick. Again, it was funded through a Georgia Smart Communities grant. We had matching funds from the county SPLOST. We were fortunate to be one of the initial cohort of the Georgia Smart Communities Challenge. Part of the benefit of this project was the safety research led by Dr. Angstrom and Gwynn at Georgia Tech. It also gave us our additional guidance to move forward with our Smart Corridor pilot project, which I'll talk about later. And it also helped us develop identify the developmental needs for the expansion of connected vehicle technology and applications over the next 5 years. Kind of how we envision some things operating aren't there today. So this will give us a path forward. I'll talk more now about the tech research that we conducted, again, led by Dr. Gwynn. We did a lot of stuff looking at the data and the off-route filters. We did some data collection on 17 trucks, engines, and med units from 6 different fire stations. We had Georgia Tech equipment deployed for that data collection on our county vehicles. And you see we get a number of off-route filter locations, such as the fire station. You can see Fire Station 4 highlighted in its service area. And then in the lower picture, you can see kind of all the dots around the station itself, representing the engine or the med unit being in the station house. And that's filtered down by the response location at being less than 7 miles per hour for more than 4 minutes. So you would have a similar plot at a response area when they've arrived after a call started. So what are some of the results? This one is a percentage for red light on the approach. So here we're focusing on a different fire station, number 19 off North Berkeley Lake Road. It's about 1,100 feet from the fire station driveway to Peachtree Industrial Boulevard. And with Peachtree Industrial being a major route, you can see we have a pretty frequent occurrence of the fire vehicle arriving on a red, 86% of the time in our initial data collection. So those are the kind of things we're looking to make improvements on. So we decided that after the Georgia Smart Challenge wrapped up, that we wanted to continue our efforts with the research. So we want to evaluate the delays that could occur with signal preemption, and both for the emergency vehicles and how we could reduce those delays, but also what would we impact with our traveling public. So we're developing the methodologies and algorithms for tuning these parameters so that we can minimize that, again, emergency vehicle travel time. And you can see here there's several methodology has several steps. Currently, they're creating a software in the loop simulation, which is a combination of VisSim and the MaxTime software. They're going through calibrating those volumes. We'll do some additional data collection to get a new consideration of the fire truck delays, and then continue to test those out in the software simulation. So here's the rough architecture of connecting VisSim and MaxTime. First, you take some historical volume data. You take the GPS data from our emergency vehicles, and then you plug it into the software in the loop, which is looking at VisSim interfacing, and then taking that even further down into a MaxTime instance. It's a virtual instance, of course, not a real traffic signal, but it's a way to evaluate different scenarios of arrival of the emergency vehicle on a green or on a red and seeing what the impacts would be. So there's still some work to be done on that. We're imputing the turn counts either from our local data, TMC data, or from ARFC's data, automating that process of connecting these multiple instances of MaxTime to the VisSim, and then getting real detector output into VisSim from MaxTime real locations, so you can kind of see as the signal's actually running if you implemented an emergency vehicle preemption on top of that. We can even take this software in the loop to a more granular level. We can evaluate the just on regular basis, as well as even, is it better to lead or lag a left turn phase at an intersection? So we're really excited about the potential impacts of this software in the loop simulation. Oops, wrong way. So now talking about the deployment projects that are going on in Gwinnett County. First is a GDOT project that I think Andrew mentioned earlier in his opening session, the connected vehicle integration and deployment that's going on as part of RTOP. In Gwinnett County, that's currently deployed 103 roadside units, primarily along RTOP corridors. That communication is via dedicated short-range radio, or DSRC. And currently GDOT and Atkins are working to obtain the FCC licenses based on the current guidance from SCC. And one of the cool things is it allowed us the opportunity to test the emergency vehicle preemption at Fire Station 15 in Lawrenceville. This fire station is about 350 feet from a major intersection of State Route 20 and State Route 124 in Lawrenceville. And it's been a very interesting learning experience that basically we can't quite get it green and get the traffic cleared by the time the vehicle has left the bay and gotten onto the main road. So the next program, again, was mentioned earlier, the Regional Connected Vehicle Program. This is deployment of the RSUs and additional traffic signals. We're working on developing the list we're going to submit to GDOT for the total the signals and the locations. It will be a significant expansion from the DSRC deployment that's ongoing. And again, as mentioned earlier, the communication will be both DSRC and CV to X. This program will set up the signal phase and timing message capabilities, and also includes maintenance and support of the RSUs after they're deployed, which would be of significant benefit to the county and other local agencies. And then lastly is our Gwinnett Smart Corridor project. With the advent of these other programs, this program has evolved into more of a deployment of onboard units in designated county vehicles. This will be emergency vehicles. And with our conversations with our fire and emergency services, we're looking more at fire engines and fire trucks, not necessarily med units going forward. And also on our transit priority, we're looking at our local buses and covering all the local buses that cover local routes within the county. Some other applications we want to investigate are pedestrian warnings at intersections that have a lot of pedestrian activity, railroad presence. So if a traffic signal is in railroad preemption, we share that information with drivers. And then also work some warnings where we put something on our either a county DOT or county Department of Water Resources vehicles that are stopped in the roadway and can alert drivers that there's potential for construction activity in front of them. Another big part of this project is going to be an innovative solution. It's great to deploy this technology and gain that information for us to use both in our traffic control center or share with Georgia DOT or other partners, but we ultimately need to share this information with the public. So if somebody's got an innovative solution that can help us make that happen faster, we will be very excited to learn about it. And again, this project is also going to be led by Georgia DOT, as are the previous projects were discussed. And with that, I think I've wrapped it up and got us back on schedule. So again, thank you for your time, and I will take any questions.
Thank you, Tom, for getting me out of trouble. As of right now, there's no questions. We'll give them a minute or two. See if anybody wants to type in any questions.
They can ask anybody else if they want to, not just me.
While we're waiting for somebody to, if anybody wants to ask you a question, I'm going to remind everybody or say to join us tonight for Pictionary at 6 p.m. To grab a drink and join us at the website that hopefully somebody will post, because that'll be too much for me to say, that website that they will post on the chat box. Along with visit Q-Free virtual booth during the vendor break throughout the conference and join their mailing list and get additional entry into the conference raffle, as well as a Q-Free raffle giveaway, 2 $50 Amazon gift cards. And to participate in that, go to www.qfree.solutions. And there is still no questions for you, Tom. So I guess we'll wrap things up. I guess that'll be the close of this conference. Thank you for everybody to participate.